Have you ever wondered why most people read about the law of attraction, make daily affirmations, and yet still struggle for money, happiness, and fulfillment? Why do some seem to effortlessly attract everything they desire, while others remain stuck, frustrated, anxious, convinced that the universe simply isn't conspiring in their favor? Today I'm going to reveal exactly why the law of attraction doesn't work for the majority. That's 90% of people. And more importantly, what truly separates the few who achieve results from those who remain frustrated. Get ready, because some of the truths I'm about to share might sound harsh, but they reflect what I've personally experienced, transformed, and taught to thousands of people worldwide. When I reflect on the profound reason why so many struggle to make the law of attraction work, I always return to the same core issue: the paradigm. It's silent, invisible, yet controls everything. And most people don't even realize they're trapped by it. I lived this for years myself, long before discovering any prosperity principles. I woke up every day unconsciously believing my life was destined to be small. This belief was so deeply ingrained, it felt like part of my personality. I'd tell myself I didn't have enough education, wasn't talented, had nothing special. And without realizing it, I lived precisely within that boundary, like an invisible fence I never tried to cross. This is where 90% of people fail. They want to change their lives, attract more money, more opportunities, more freedom, but they carry within them a mental program that repeats, "You can't do it. That's not for you. It will go wrong. You weren't born for this." And the curious thing is that often they believe they're thinking positively, believing they're focusing on what they desire, but beneath the conscious thought lies an emotional foundation built from childhood, from their earliest years, shaped by experiences, family, society, and fear. And when that foundation doesn't change, nothing else does either. I vividly recall a period in my life when I genuinely believed I was doing everything right. I read about prosperity, dreamed of a better life, imagined success. But every day, as soon as I woke up, the first sensation that arose within me was the same: a weight on my chest. It was the feeling of being trapped. It was as if an internal voice whispered that I wasn't born for great achievements. And it was so automatic that I didn't even realize it was a paradigm controlling me. Perhaps you felt this too. That sense that no matter how hard you try, something always seems to pull you back. Have you ever noticed that happening? People believe they fail due to bad luck, lack of money, or lack of time. But the truth is far deeper. They fail because the paradigm causes them to make the same decisions, have the same emotional reactions, follow the same patterns, and produce the same results year after year. That's why someone might earn more money, receive an opportunity, or even start a business, and yet within a short time return to exactly the same level as before. Because the paradigm always pulls them back to what they believe is their place. I've seen this happen with highly talented people, intelligent, dedicated individuals with real potential, yet unable to sustain results. Have you seen this in your own life? You start something excitedly, feel like this is it, but soon everything returns to normal. Statistically, a large proportion of people who make New Year's resolutions abandon all of them before completing 30 days. It's not a lack of willpower, it's the paradigm at work. It doesn't allow the person to stay on track because deep down, they don't believe they deserve that new lifestyle. And when I look back, I remember how this paradigm almost prevented me from completely changing my story. I had dropped out of school, worked odd jobs, changing tires, changing oil, doing repetitive tasks with no prospects. When I injured my thumb on a saw, I felt as if it confirmed that my life would always be limited. And for a long time, I accepted that idea as absolute truth. That's the destructive power of a paradigm. It makes you believe you're being realistic, when in fact, you're just repeating an emotional conditioning. The most dangerous thing is that the paradigm doesn't shout, it whispers. It doesn't announce itself saying, "I am the reason for your stagnation." It infiltrates your thoughts, the excuses you create, the fears you feel, the opportunities you unknowingly reject. It's what makes you say, "It's not the right time. I don't have enough experience. What if it goes wrong? I wasn't born for this." And behind this internal conversation, there's a single objective: to keep you exactly where you are. But the truth is, the paradigm only loses power when you begin to see it. When you realize that internal voice isn't your identity, but rather a conditioning. From the moment you identify these patterns, you start to weaken them. And when you realize you don't have to obey automatic thoughts, you take control. Transformation never begins in the external world. It begins within. It begins when you decide to stop repeating the past. And that's exactly what changed everything for me. The day I understood that my results were merely a reflection of what I believed about myself, everything began to shift. From a frustrated and lost employee, I went on to build a business that generated over $100,000 in its first year. And that was without formal education, without experience, without knowing almost anything about business. And do you know why? Because, for the first time in my life, I broke through that invisible fence. That's why I say, the paradigm is the root of everything. It's not the technique, it's not the desire, it's not the affirmation, it's not the dream. It's the internal image you hold of yourself. If it doesn't change, nothing changes. But when it changes, everything changes. And that's the key that 90% of people never grasp. They try to change the world around them when they should be changing the world within them. Now imagine what would happen if you truly changed this internal structure, if you decided to break through that invisible barrier. Just imagine for a moment what your life could be like if you stopped living limited by beliefs that were never truly yours. Think about that, because it is exactly here at this point that true transformation begins. There's a critical point almost no one recognizes when trying to make the law of attraction work: the true emotion that accompanies desire. This is where most people get stuck. They say they want more money, but carry within them a chronic feeling of fear and insecurity every time they think about improving their lives. They want abundance, but feel guilt when imagining more prosperity. They desire financial freedom, but their stomach tightens whenever they look at a bank statement. And it's precisely this internal contradiction that sabotages everything. The universe doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you truly feel. Vibration is determined by emotion, not by repeated phrases. That's why so many spend years affirming, "I am prosperous," but can't feel prosperity even for a single minute. They try to project light while carrying shadow within, and the shadow always wins. Have you ever felt this? Have you tried to think positively, but deep down, something told you it wasn't true for you? Many of these negative emotions arise even before conscious thought. Scientific studies in emotional psychology show that the body reacts before the mind interprets. This means you can formulate affirmations of abundance, but if your emotional memory is conditioned by fear, your body triggers alarm signals. And this conflict creates a vibrational state that blocks any positive flow. In other words, your intention says yes, but your vibration says no, and the vibration is always stronger. I experienced this firsthand during a period of my life when change seemed impossible. I remember a time when I had left the fire department and was trying to build something different, but every time I thought about earning more money, a strange feeling arose. It wasn't just doubt. It was a mixture of fear, shame, and a type of anxiety I tried to hide even from myself. I imagined success, but felt failure. I desired prosperity, but felt I didn't deserve it. And this happened so automatically that I didn't even realize it was this feeling, not the desire, that was defining my vibration. People put too much pressure on themselves for not being able to think positive all the time. But the truth is, the solution isn't to force positivity. The solution is to understand the origin of the feeling. If every time you think about money, a tightness in your chest arises, that tightness needs to be seen, understood, dissolved, because it's what shapes the vibrational field. There's no point in masking fear with pretty phrases. The energy of fear remains, dominating the process. It's important to remember that no one is alone in this experience. Statistically, a significant portion of the population reports finance-related anxiety. Recent research shows that the simple act of opening a bill generates physiological stress responses in a large number of people. This means that the emotional block around money isn't just in your head, it's a collective programming. And precisely because of that, when someone manages to break through this barrier, life changes in an extraordinary way. And this is where something extremely practical comes in. It's impossible to transform a vibration if you don't start observing what you feel. That's why the most powerful exercise you can do is simple yet profound. For 7 days, set aside 5 minutes each day to observe your emotions concerning money. Nothing more. Just observe. How do you react when you imagine having more? When you imagine receiving an unexpected sum? When you think about investing? When you think about spending? When you think about asking for a raise? When you imagine you could earn more than your parents did? This simple act of observation does something most people ignore. It brings the unconscious to light. And everything that comes to light begins to lose its power. When you notice an emotional pattern, you are no longer dominated by it. You begin to see yourself from the outside, and that is the first step to changing any vibration. There is something liberating about this process. Most people try to control external factors: the job, the bills, opportunities, time. But emotion is the origin. When you change the emotion, behavior changes. When behavior changes, decisions change. When decisions change, results change. And suddenly, the law of attraction starts to work as it should. I experienced this when I began to identify my fear. I realized that whenever I thought about earning more, memories of old failures would surface. From the time I was changing tires and cleaning floors, believing nothing better was available to me. When I noticed this, the fear lost its grip. And when the fear lost its grip, something inside me opened up to new possibilities. It was during this period that my company began to generate extraordinary results, over $100,000 in the first year. Not because I thought positively, but because I finally aligned my feelings with my desire. That's why I say, feeling is the code. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you vibrate. When you understand this, everything starts to change. When you stop running from emotions and start observing them, you begin to take control of your frequency. And when you control your frequency, you control your life. True change begins there. There's something very powerful that few people realize when trying to apply the law of attraction: the lack of coherent action with the new identity they wish to create. Most people dream big, imagine abundance, even visualize a better future, but continue to make decisions based on fear, scarcity, and insecurity. And this creates a devastating internal conflict. It's like trying to accelerate with the handbrake on. The vibration doesn't sustain the movement because the action contradicts the desire. This is where many get lost. They think visualizing is enough. They think repeating affirmations is enough. They think positive thinking is enough, and they don't realize that the universe responds to the complete package: thought, emotion, and action. If you say you want prosperity, but your actions reveal that you still fear losing every cent, the message you send isn't abundance, it's fear. And fear always attracts more circumstances that reinforce that fear. This happens more than you imagine. For example, how many people say they want to earn more but avoid asking for a raise because they're afraid of being a bother? How many say they want to start a business but don't even take the first step because they keep imagining everything that could go wrong? How many say they want to change their lives but spend the entire day repeating the same choices that keep them stuck? Perhaps this has happened to you. Have you ever found yourself desiring a new reality, but feeling that something paralyzes you exactly at the moment you need to act? Recent research shows that human behavior is largely guided by an internal perception of identity. In other words, you act according to who you believe yourself to be. If deep down you see yourself as limited, mediocre, or destined for scarcity, your actions will reflect that, even if your conscious desire says otherwise. And that's why so many people end up sabotaging their own evolution. I remember a phase in my life when I worked for a while in cleaning services. The company was growing, and I had ideas to expand, hire more people, take on bigger contracts. But there was something inside me that said, "This is too big for you." Every time an opportunity to take on a new client arose, I hesitated. It wasn't a lack of ability. It was the old identity trying to pull me back to the past. I was afraid to fail, afraid to disappoint, afraid of not being able to handle it. And the most curious thing is that I was already earning more than I had ever imagined before. Even so, I acted as if I was still that aimless kid, without education, without confidence. Opportunities knocked, and I faced them with apprehension, as if I didn't deserve any of it. Until one day, something changed. I was talking to a potential client, a large contract that could boost my revenue to a new level. And in the middle of the conversation, I realized I was about to refuse it. It was as if a voice said, "This is too much for you." And at that exact moment, I felt a mix of anger and clarity. I thought, why do I keep living as if I were the person I was and not the person I am becoming? That moved me in a profound way, and for the first time, I decided to act like someone who truly believed in their own ability. I accepted the contract, and that contract opened doors that led me to generate over $100,000 in the first year of the business. That episode taught me something that changed everything. You need to act like the person you wish to become, not like the person you were. Action is an extension of identity, and identity shapes vibration. When you act with courage, even trembling inside, you send a powerful message to the universe. I am ready. And the universe responds accordingly. Many famous people have gone through this same process of identity and action. A strong example is Sylvester Stallone. Before becoming known, he experienced extreme poverty, but even living in difficult conditions, he took actions that reflected the identity he wanted to build. He wrote an entire screenplay, believing he could change his life. Even without money, without support, even being rejected numerous times, he acted like someone destined for something greater. This courage, aligned with desire, attracted exactly the result he sought. It's living proof that the universe responds when you act in coherence with what you say you want. But the opposite is also true. We've seen celebrities lose everything because they were afraid to change the way they related to money and themselves. Some achieve fame and fortune, but still live with the emotional identity of scarcity. And eventually, they end up making bad decisions, sabotaging opportunities, and returning to the same vibrational pattern. This happens because action doesn't accompany the internal identity. External prosperity can never last when there is internal poverty. That's why you need to understand this point. The law of attraction never fully manifests if your actions don't confirm what you wish to attract. You cannot ask for abundance and act with fear. You cannot desire freedom and act with hesitation. You cannot want prosperity and act like someone who expects the worst. And here is a challenge that can completely transform your vibration. For the next 3 days, every time an opportunity arises that represents a step toward the life you desire, any opportunity, make the courageous decision. Even if it's small, even if it's simple, even if it's uncomfortable. Just act as the highest version of yourself would make that decision, because when you act as if you've already arrived, the universe moves the pieces for you to truly get there. This is the point where everything begins to change, when desire stops being just a thought and transforms into action. When you take the step, the path appears. When you dare, the flow opens up. When you change your action, you change your frequency. And when you change your frequency, you change your life. And as you let these ideas settle within you, notice how everything has started to make more sense. When perception changes, the world changes with it. And this happens so naturally, it almost seems like magic. So before moving on to your next step, do something simple yet profoundly powerful. Share this video with someone special, someone you know could benefit from this message exactly today. Sometimes a single phrase is what awakens a new life. Thank you for being here, for making space for this knowledge, and for allowing this transformation to begin within you. I'll see you in the next video, and I guarantee you won't want to miss what comes next.